Hi, welcome back. It's Stacey Golby, and we're about midpoint of our summit, Unleash the Real, Raw, Uncensored You. And so I just want to thank you for, coming along on this ride with us for, about a week and a half now. And if you're just showing up today, welcome. I hope you get some good content out of our videos. And I would like to introduce our guest today. Her name is Jennifer M. Blair, and she's a life coach, speaker, and writer based in Louisville, Kentucky. In 2003, she founded Excavive, coaching and consulting, as a way to empower people to pursue their passions, increase their self-confidence, communicate powerfully, and build the kind of lives they truly want to live. So I want to give her a big welcome. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Stacey. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm thrilled to be here from Louisville, Kentucky. Yes.
So Excavive, that is an interesting name. Is there a story behind that?
Well, there is a story behind that. When I was getting my life coaching training 13 and a half years ago, I was thinking about the business I was going to create. And back then, people were setting up companies like Live Your Best Life and The Ideal Life. And I wanted something that was going to be provocative and create curiosity and that was interesting. And I also knew that I wanted some type of name that I could create an umbrella. So I took my best friend and my graphic designer to breakfast at this very cool, funky place in Louisville called Lynn's Paradise Cafe. And we sat down and I said, okay, we got to come up with something that's going to be really interesting and fun and creative. And so I had a list of all these names and words. And just through that discussion, they said, well, what if we make up a word? And so someone said, well, what is it you're trying to do? I said, well, it's life and it's authenticity and it's digging in. And so someone said, how about excavate? I'm like, oh, love it. And then we just put life together. So excavate means to excavate your life. And it just kind of, like when we came up with that, I'm like, oh, that's it. And I knew immediately that was the name. So for me, it's about a rediscovering and uncovering and excavation to get to really back to who you are, which we so often forget that in the world.
Yeah, I love that because it really is authentic to you. And even as you talk about it, you just shine. I love that.
And also to add to that, my tagline, so when I created Excavive, I had a tagline, uncover your authentic self. Oh. So that was sort of an explanation of what Excavive meant with that tagline that I use.
Yeah, great. So we were talking earlier and I absolutely love your story. So can you share it with all our viewers?
Oh, yes. Well, I was born. I was like, how much time do we have, Stacey? Because it seems like we go through so many evolutions in life. And I certainly feel like my life and my life story has been that. But just the real quick early years, I'm a Texas girl. I grew up in the South. And I was in a family that looked like life was good. Went to private schools. From a kind of upper middle class type family. But my dad was an alcoholic. So did have those things that happened. My parents divorced eventually. And so because of those early experiences, I felt the need to try to show up a certain way in life, to show up that life was okay, even though back home it might not have been. And that was kind of what got imprinted in those early years, I believe. So went to college, got out of school, started work in Dallas, Texas, and then I met a man and fell in love. We got married. I moved to Louisville and thought, love conquers all. Life is going to be great. Love conquers all. Came here, could not find a job doing what I did back then. I worked on big corporate projects in communications and really could not find the type of job that I had back then that in Texas that I loved. So I'm kind of fast forwarding through this. Got married, had kids, had the house, the 2 kids, married to the attorney, became a stay-at-home mom, thought life looks great. And I was married for 12 and a half years. And in those, there were early years that were actually really good. I loved being a mom, loved, the time I had with them. But I think that as my marriage, as I, grew and went, the longer I was in my marriage, the marriage started to fall apart. I realized it wasn't just the marriage falling apart. It was me that I had lost myself in that marriage and didn't really understand that back then. So I did make the painful decision when my kids were very young, 5 and 7, to divorce. Spent a couple of years healing, therapy, and any type of modality I could find that would help me to make sense of what had happened in my life. And I thought I had created this safety and created something that is what I was supposed to do. And suddenly that was torn away. And so spent some time healing. And through that, I started to realize that part of what had happened was I forgot who I was. I forgot that I had gifts and talents to share in the world. And even though during those years I was a volunteer, in fact, I was on boards, I was the president of the Junior League of Louisville, I chaired the Race for the Cure to raise money for breast cancer. I did some big things, and I worked with amazing people, but I lost sight of what I needed to be doing in the world to make a difference in who I was. So through that healing, I also realized I would have to go back to work. I did not work for over a decade. And so I started searching. I felt very strongly that there was something I had to offer women, especially in terms of coming back to themselves. When I got divorced, I was determined to do it in a way that was life-giving, life-building, life recreating, not breaking down. I did not want to tear down. It was already hard enough to tear apart my family, but felt that this was an opportunity to have a blank canvas and rebuild life. So did that. And through my conversations, meditations, lots of kind of digging deep, some different assessments that I took, I realized that I wanted to go make a difference for other people, other women, and I discovered life coaching. Happened to be in a bookstore looking at books. I thought I was going to write a book on divorce because I thought this is how you can do divorce differently. And I saw this book called Live Your Best Life and picked it up, and it said, therapy heals the past, coaching moves you forward. I'm like, oh, I don't know what that is. I'm going to do coaching. So I really believe now, I'm now 13 years, in my 14th year of coaching, that my life is, I have these experiences in life and they're not mine to hold on to. They are experiences I have that can, for my own self-healing, my own growth, my own evolution, but they're also meant to be shared with others and to be given to others, either individually as I coach, my writing, my speaking. So it's really a combination of those things that kind of led me into coaching and to coach people all over the country now. So it was a remembrance, a fierce, it sort of made me mad to see women out in the world who forget who they are, make lots of choices. Some don't have that knowledge or information, and it's not that they can help it, it's that they don't know that they can stay powerful. So that became part of the mission to go do what I do. And so I really try to walk the talk. My personal story informs how I continue to do life, how I continue to evolve, how I continue to have challenges and grow and learn and dig in, but to, again, go help and be of service to others.
Yeah, and you're a beautiful example and an inspiration, right? By you being authentic with yourself, you give us the permission to be authentic with ourselves.
Right. And that's what we all need to do for each other, quite honestly.
Yeah. So a question spurred in my mind as you were talking. So I know I had this problem, and I'm guessing you probably did too, sometimes when you have to make really hard choices in your life that affect your kids, your family, you feel lots of guilt. So how could you talk to that? How can we still honor ourselves and all the people in our family without feeling guilty?
Well, I'm happy you asked that question because I don't get asked that very often. And I think I work with people my clients now, guilt is a strong influencer over people. It really drives them in a way that can be very self-defeating, can rob you of your joy, there's a lot of things guilt can do. It can also inform you that there's a need for something, a shift or change. But for me, first thing I did is I did everything I could to try to make the marriage work. I went to therapy. I looked at my part of the breakdown of the marriage. I didn't just go, oh, this is happening over here. I said, let me take ownership of my part. Let me see what I need to be doing to be a better wife, to be a better mother, to be my best. You know, I say to people who want relationships, be your best so you have something to give to the other person. So I did that first. And I actually, when my marriage blew up, I stayed in an additional 2 years before I made the choice to leave it. And during that time, I also had to learn some other tools. For instance, I can't control another person. I can't get them to surprise. Like, you mean they aren't going to do what I want them to do? I couldn't control that. I could simply make requests that were really true and real for me, and either they got met or they didn't. So I think part of that guilt was I had to get truthful with myself. I had to really tell the truth about my needs, my desires, who I am, what's important to me, my beliefs around family, what's important to me around life, how that needs to look, and to express that and give that person the opportunity to, hey, say, are you on board with me? Or is there someplace we can meet in between? And we couldn't work that out. So the first thing I would say is I did everything I could, that when I finally made that decision, I felt good. I felt that one day I'd be able to say to my kids, you know what, I hung in there. I did everything that I knew how to do, including pray a lot. Therapy, all kinds of support. I went to support groups. And so that was one thing I did with the guilt. The other thing I did was I had to have some trust and faith that there was a higher purpose for this. I also had the belief that my kids would be resilient. I did give them support, got them into therapy, and made sure that their needs were met and taken care of. I was also truthful with them about what was appropriate to say, age given, and would answer their questions, have that trust with them. So I really did not have guilt. I've had sadness, huge sadness that it was a breakdown of my family, but I did not have guilt because I felt like I had done everything I needed to do. I felt like I was in integrity with myself. And I also felt the other key thing for me was I felt that I needed to practice forgiveness. I did not make that final decision until I could forgive him of some of the things that were happening. So I went into this from a place of love and compassion and empathy and strength. So that was how I dealt with the guilt, is I just got incredibly authentic and real. Yeah. Got some tools, got some support.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That really is how divorce, if it happens, should be. Yeah.
Absolutely. Divorce, and whether it's divorce with a spouse or it's a letting go of friendships, anything that as you evolve in life, of letting go needs to happen. That is the ideal way to do it, to let go of each other in love. And I will say this now, 15 years out of my divorce, my ex-husband and I have been great co-parents together. I go to dinner at his house. We've been on trips with our kids. He's remarried. I'm not. And we've created a really wonderful working relationship and respectful relationship for the sake of our children and families and the people around us, which has been really lovely.
Yeah, and how it should be. I think so many times we get caught up on how it should look. Well, divorce looks like this. And, we really have to look outside the box.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's about lots of things in life. We feel that we should be doing things a certain way or playing a certain role. And as women, I find that we have a tendency to play roles rather than show up authentically. Would you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we talked a little bit about the masks that you had mentioned. I may be jumping ahead to a question.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I do. I think that we, especially women, I think the question you asked me was something to the effect of, why do you think we put masks on, or why we play roles, and the impact that has? And wow, I started thinking about that. I'm like, well, let's see, we've got churches, we've got countries, we've got culture, we've got schools, society, families, parents, friends, everyone that has their belief on how you should be living your life, pre-prescribed roles. And whenever I heard the word should is one of those words. I will tell you, if you get nothing else out of this interview, when you hear the word should, when people say you should do this, you should do that, or you should yourself, I think should can be a very shaming word. It's projecting their belief of what they think they should do. But I think that comes from a basis of fear. I think the fear of not knowing, not being able to control their own needs getting met, a sense of order. If you have a sense of order, then you're not straying outside of what I don't understand. There's a lot of reasons that people project that on. And there's a lot of reasons we wear those masks. We wear those masks because sometimes, like in my case, was a great case, I was living a life that looked like it was perfect. It looked perfect. I looked like a Stepford wife. I looked like, I was at the time, I was a junior league president with my pearls on, going to meetings, leading meetings with hundreds of women looking to me going, you have the perfect life. And 2 days when I finished my last big meeting, I filed for divorce. And they're like, we had no idea. And I'm like, right. And there's a problem with that. I think there's a problem because we have not made it okay to have these conversations. I love the name of your summit, the raw, the real, the uncensored, because we've not made it safe for people to be vulnerable, to show up and be who they are in their sadness or confusion or fear, in their greatness. We haven't made it okay for them to be in their greatness on the other side of the scale. And so we put those masks on so we can survive. We put them on so that we'll be accepted, we'll be loved, we'll be, everything that goes with that. We want to, I think the bottom line is people want to be loved, accepted, known, and that's how we think we're going to get it. That's what we do. It's a very natural way to do that.
Yeah. And the ironic thing is when you really connect with someone, it's usually because you can see into them and see like their essence, right? So I just think it's so ironic that we go around, putting our masks on for the world, but it's not the mask that other people connect with.
Exactly. You love the word, it's seeing into somebody. I think of the definition intimacy. Intimacy is into myself, I see, and we have to be able to look inward first, see ourselves, who we really are, to have that intimacy with ourselves, and therefore we can have it with others. So very much so.
I'm all about being practical and tangible. So do you have some tangible steps for our viewers about how they can kind of get over the fear, get over the perfectionism, the judgment they think they feel from other people, and really step into the power of speaking up, showing up, and living the life of their wildest dreams?
I do, and I'm so glad that you asked this question because I love that we're having this conversation, but I've learned over the years in the work that I do that it's great to have the conversation, but if nobody has a roadmap or a way to get there, that they can't integrate something into their lives immediately, then it's not helpful. It's like going to a training and you get all excited, like, oh yeah, I love this training, I'm getting new tools. You go back to your office, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna, you put the notebook on the shelf and you never take it back off. And it just sits there, and you're well-intended. But if you don't actually have a way for us to just say, well, speak up and live your truth and say your truth, well, that's really scary to do that. So I think there's some really good practical things that you can do. So the first I'm going to say is, you must know yourself. I think in order to be able to build the confidence to be able to speak up, is that you need to know your values. You need to know your essence, what you stand for, what's important to you in the world, what makes you mad in the world, and to be able to really kind of identify that. In my coaching practice, I do that with clients by helping name their values. And we actually list their values. I have a process I've created that helps them identify that, and I call it their life checklist. And if they make decisions based on those values, they will never betray themselves. So living in those values. I think the next thing is, once you know who you are, once you're important, I always say practice, 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 practice. Practice with someone close to you. If you need to figure out how to get empowered, let's say you need to figure out how to get empowered in a relationship, and it's an intimate, emotional relationship. It's hard that can be a tough place to speak up sometimes. Well, get your best friend or get someone that you feel safe with and say, okay, I need to practice. And practice hearing yourself say these words. How does that feel inside to you? Does it feel truthful? Can you feel that connection within yourself that you're speaking your truth? I think the third point is risk failing. You've got to be willing to be misunderstood. You've got to be willing to be scared and speak up anyway. You've got to be so convicted with what you want to say out there in the world that you can't not do it. You can't not be it and say it. Again, and that also taps into your passion. Pick your battles. Speak your battles. Speak up for what you really believe in. It's what I always say, what you can't not do. Speak up for those causes and know your why. Why this cause? Why this topic? Why is that important to me? And pick your battles. Another part of speaking up and building that confidence is, I think it's really important to align your actions and your words. You must, if you're going to speak up about something's words, you have to also live that and be in alignment. That's a big part of authenticity. Do your internal beliefs, feelings, thoughts, words match the external actions you're out there doing in the world? And there must be congruency in that internal and external piece. 2 more points. Self-care practices. I'm a big believer in self-care. Journaling, meditating, working out, doing something physical in the body, and really having those practices that you have somehow incorporate into your world every single day. And I'm not saying you can do everything all day long, but kind of have your bag, your toolkit of the things you can tap into. And finally, get support. I don't think we're meant to go do this alone in the world. I think we need to find those collaborators, those people we connect to that also have those shared beliefs, that there's some power around the synergy of others that can speak up for things, and find those people, connect with them. Another reason why I love your summit and what you're up to, you're finding all these people in the world who have these same beliefs around authenticity and putting it out there in the world, and look at the synergy that you can create. Not you just getting up there and putting a video out there, but you're getting all these people to come together to create something much more powerful. So speaking up and showing up in the world, you just can't not do it. And those are some tools that I have, some tangible ways you can do it. But again, pick your cause, know your why, baby steps, and just keep going. Be scared and keep doing it. So.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I was getting shivers, and I'm like, yes to every single one. And it's so appropriate for me to hear this because, this has been a bit of a journey for me. So you have something special for our viewers. Can you tell us about that?
I do. Well, we've been talking about authenticity, and I do. I have a PDF workbook called, if you can see this, Be Who You Are, 6 Ways to Excavate Yourself. And basically, it is a workbook. It's 40 pages that will give you some tools on some of the things we've talked about, how to excavate yourself, living your values, pursuing your passion, loving what you do, how to make choices, trying things anyway, and practicing gratitude are kind of my subtopics. And so it's a free downloadable PDF that I believe you're going to provide our viewers with the link.
Yes, I will make it really easy for them to find it. Yeah.
And I will make it easy as well. And so that's something that I think you can actually have some perspective on it in terms of my thinking around it. But there's some exercises and tools that you can help identify your values and kind of come back to that essence to help you start living more authentically out in the world.
Yeah, and I love that it's a workbook because, yeah, it's one thing, it's like what you said, it's one thing for us to talk about this, but it's another thing to put it into action. And it is about action and practice. That's how you get good at anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you have one more thing you are going to offer our viewers, right?
I do. So you mentioned in the intro, which was lovely, that I'm a writer, and I wrote a life coaching column for 6 years called Evolve. And it was a local women's magazine that was published here. And it was really fantastic. I was offered this column to create, really, I kind of was given carte blanche as long as it matched the monthly theme. So I wrote that for several years, and I compiled 53 of my columns into a book called The True You: Tools to Excavate, Explore, and Evolve. And in this, I really dive deeply into authenticity and what that means, how you can live it. And I cover pretty much every life area you can imagine in these chapters, and there's tools. So I'm giving away a free book. And I believe we're going to be doing that on the Facebook page. So join the Facebook group, get on the Facebook page, and we'll be doing a drawing from there.
Yeah, and I'll write a post, and if you want to be entered in the draw, just say I'm in under the post, and then we will do the draw probably the day after. And so for those people,
and I will ship that, and I'll autograph it and get bookmark and ship that away to you as soon as we know who the winner is of that.
And for those people that don't want to wait for the draw and they want to go out and buy your book, so where can they find it?
First of all, you can find it at my website, www.excavive.com, and it's under the services, learn more, or how this works, I believe. So you can buy it there. It's also on Amazon, but if you buy it through my website, I can autograph it. If it comes from Amazon, I don't have any way to do that. So Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com are also two other ways in which you can purchase that.
That's great.
Yes.
And it's been so good having you, and thank you for all the information, and thank you for being you, because you are so authentic. I can feel it. And as I said earlier, it gives the rest of us permission to be who we are, because you're a bright example of that.
Well, thank you so much, Stacey. I've enjoyed getting to know you and our conversation prior to this interview and today. I know that you were out in the world doing the same thing, living your authenticity, and our stories we have some similarities there. And so I'm so grateful to be part of this summit. And if there's anything else I can offer up, I'm happy to. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much, so much. All right, take care.
Thank you.